Good morning, class. Today, we will tackle about the research methodology. I am your teacher, Sir Redentor M. Casinillo. To begin with, let us have first the parts of the research methodology. In the research methodology class, it can be found under chapter 3. The first one is what we call the research design. In the research design, we are going to describe the research mode, whether it's true experimental or quasi-experimental design, descriptive or survey research, historical research, qualitative research, ethnography, and etc. So basically, class, in the research design, later I'll be discussing to you examples of a non-experimental design and the experimental design. Under the experimental design, we have this true experimental or the quasi-experimental design, while the non-experimental design includes the descriptive, the survey research, historical, qualitative, and ethnography. The next one is what we call the participants of the study. When we say participants of the study, this refers to the respondents of your study. And this describes the target population and the sample frame. It specifies the sampling technique used and how the sample size is determined. So when we are looking for the participants of the study, we are going to use the sampling technique to lessen the number of the respondents. We discussed it in our previous video on how to determine the respondents of the study from our target population. We can make use of the systematic sampling method, the probability sampling method, or the non-probability sampling method. The next one is the locale of the study. Describes the place or setting of the study. In other words, class, when we say locale, this is the place kung saan natin ikakandak yung ating study. So it describes in brief the place where the study is conducted. Only important features which have been the bearing on the present study are included, shows the target population. So basically, um, mga researches na ginagawa ng mga estudyante in Pitago Community High School, the locale of the study is in Pitago, Quezon. The next one is the sampling technique. So it explains what sampling technique will be used. It could be a non-probability or probability sampling, such as the simple random, the stratified, or the purposive as the non-probability sampling method. So why you use it and what procedure will be followed to carry out the technique. Next one is the research instrument. So it explains the specific type of research instrument used, such as questionnaire checklist, a structured interview, teacher-made test, a standardized instrument, which are adapted or borrowed with permission from the author or from other sources. In the previous video class, we have discussed the difference between the observation and the interview. So, if you wanted to know more about it, pwede mong balikan kung ano yung pagkakaiba ng observation and interview. And also, the parts of the instrument should be explained and what bits of information are derived. The establishment of validity and reliability should be explained, and only experts should be chosen to validate such instrument. Like for example, class, if you are going to have an interview using a survey questionnaire, so pwede kang gumawa ng survey questionnaire, and that is what you call the unstructured questionnaire, or pwede rin namang structured questionnaire, which is ginawa talaga or intended for that study. Ang mahalaga dito, for the survey questionnaire, it is validated by an expert. Kailangan na yung ginawa niyong survey questionnaire should be validated by an expert. Specific and appropriate statistical tests used should be given and the computed values derived. Interpretation should be included in the discussion. Also, under the research instrument class, we also have what you call the statistical treatment of data. So basically, on the first part of our survey questionnaire, if that is about the demographic profile of respondents, we can make use of the frequency percentage. And for the part two, if we're going to use the to determine the mean of our survey questionnaire, we can make use of the weighted arithmetic mean. So the other one, which is the t-test or the f-test, would depend if your question is about the significant difference. Of course, if we are going to use the t-test, kailangan two variables only, while the f-test, it could be three or more variables. The next one is the data gathering procedures. Now, class, in the data gathering procedures, the researchers should identify what are the procedures they do in gathering of data. So you identify the sources of data, and if a questionnaire will be used, explain what kind and how it will be constructed. If it is original, how it is pre-tested, distribution, retrieval, collation, etc. Thus, your procedures may include construction of the questionnaire, validation, distribution, retrieval, collation, presentation of data, and interpretation of data. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng ginawa mo in order to collect the data until it is presented and analyzed or interpreted ay nakasaad doon sa ating data gathering procedure. Next one is data analysis. It specifies the statistical treatments or methods you will use for interpreting your data and why they are necessary. Also include the scale or verbal interpretation for the statistical processing of your data. Mention the name of the office or agency or the person taking charge of it. So again, for the data analysis, kailangang alamin natin what could be the appropriate statistical tools to be used in conducting our data. Like for example, class, if we are going to know the significant difference of, let's say, a study when they are grouped according to their demographic profile, like sex. So basically, sex has two variables, the male and female. If that is the case, class, we are going to use the t-test. If there will be three or more variables, then we are going to use the t-test. No, what are those examples? Like for example, age. It could be three or more variables, like for example, 12 to 14, 15 to 17, 18 to 20. That could be T-test or F-test ang gagamitin natin kapag three or more variables. And the last one is what we call the ethical consideration. Now, because when we say ethics or ethical consideration, it is knowing what is right and wrong. So, ibig sabihin, kapag gumagawa ka ng research, you have to consider ano ba yung tama talaga. Kailangan ba natin i-manipulate yung data? So, we have to consider kung ano yung totoong data. We have to be honest in reporting doon sa mga nag-gather nating data. So it can be specified as one of the most important parts of the research, and the research participants should not be subjected to harm in any ways whatsoever. Respect for the dignity of the research participants should be prioritized. Full consent should be obtained from the participants prior to the study. Kaya nga, when we are conducting a survey, nagbibigay tayo ng letter to our respondents na kukuhaan natin yung consent nila na sila ay pumapayag na mag-conduct tayo ng survey. Now, here is an example of a research design. So, the topic here is Project Elite, Bridging Learning Gaps Among Struggling SHS Learners through Tutorial Mode of Teaching. So, this research is our action research na ginawa namin this year para matulungan yung mga bata na sila ay matulungan during this pandemic kasi most of the students had difficulty in independent learning. So gumawa kami ng research which is the tutorial mode of teaching ang aming action in order to bridge the learning gaps among struggling SHS learners. In here, as part of the research design class, we have the quasi-experimental method. So a quasi-experimental method is a non is a experimental design. So here, we utilized quasi-experimental method was utilized by the researchers in the study. The researchers identified a number of struggling learners, which the individual learning monitoring plan is the basis for profiling struggling learners, and the initial data used by the researchers to initiate the project. So basically, Cass, if we are going to use the experimental design, we have a manipulative variable. Pwede natin sabihin na meron tayong experimental group and the control group na napapag-aralan natin alin ba ang mas effective. Those na mayroon tayong control group o nilagyan natin ng action or doon sa wala. Like for example, in this project, in this research class, meron kaming mga estudyante na ginagamit lang nila kung ano yung module na meron sila. And then, may mga estudyante na sinama kami sa aming project which is the tutorial mode of teaching. So, kaya siya, tinawag siyang experimental design. At the end, kinompare namin alin ba ang mas effective, those na mayroong tulong, which is the tutorial, or doon sa independent learning. The next example is an example of a study under non-experimental design. So expectations of senior high school students of Itogo Community High School in modular distance learning, basis for an improved learning continuity plan. So ito naman, yung research na ginawa namin prior to the implementation of the SLM or the self-learning module or modality. So here, the descriptive method of research was utilized in this study because the descriptive, we would like to describe ano ba yung expectation ng ating mga respondents. So more or less, wala tayo ditong mga control group, walang experimental group. Hindi tayo nag-compare ng, ng isang grupo to the other group. So we're going to describe the expectations of our respondents. Next, here, papakita ko naman sa inyo dito kung paano natin nade-determine ang locale of the study, the participants, and the period of the study. The title here is Barangay Bukal 2 Hall, Maintenance Problems and Proposed Solutions in the Term Year 2019-2020. So based from the title, locale of the study means that is the place or setting. So saan ba siya ginawa? At Barangay Bukal 2 Hall. So who are the possible participants or respondents of the study? Of course, it is not written in the title, pero it's obvious naman na ang mga respondent dito is the residents of Barangay Bukal 2 Hall. And the period of the study, it is written here, the term year 2019 to 2020. So that's all, class. This is the reference of our lesson for today. If you have question, please don't hesitate to send me a message via Messenger. Thank you, class. And reminder, notes for second quarter is a requirement for this subject. Marami sa inyo ang hindi nakapag-provide ng notebook as a requirement for the subject. So I am reminding you na yung second quarter natin ay dapat ay nakasulat na sa inyong notebook. Thank you.